Shalom WJC family. Time for our weekly Torah Talk. This week in Shul, we will be reading Parshat Yitro, most famous for the revelation at Mount Sinai when God gives the Torah to the Jewish people. But it starts out with talking about its namesake, Yitro, who is Moshe's father-in-law, father of Tzipporah, but also a Kohen Gadol, a high priest of the people of Midian. And we're told, Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Choten Moshe, right? So, Vayishma, Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' and father-in-law, heard all that God had done for the Jewish people, bringing them out of Egypt to Vayikach Yitro Choten Moshe. He took his daughter Sipporah and Moshe's children and went there. The question, what makes Yitro so special? Why do we need to start this passage about the Ten Commandments with Yitro? And what can we learn? And particularly, I want to learn something about spirituality and religion and what makes one person see, the miraculous everywhere, and another person might not see the miraculous anywhere. And so later in the Torah portion, as they are preparing for the revelation at Sinai in chapter 19, verse 8, it says, Vayanu kol ha'am yachdav, all the people answered as one. Vayomru kol asher diber Adonai na'aseh. They said, everything that God said, we will do. So na'aseh, we will do. Later on in the Parsha, when Moses says, did you get all that? They say, na'aseh v'nishma. Right, we will do and we will hear. Very famous phrase, na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. And the rabbis teach that it's so great that they say we will do and then we will hear, that they're showing their loyalty to God, that their faith that the Torah is going to be great and just what they need. Before they even know what it is, they say we will do, vayishma, then we will hear. I've always had a little issue with this interpretation. I mean, it's very nice for what it is, but is it such a virtue in Judaism not to question? Is it such a virtue in Judaism to accept blindly, without relying on our reason? That's not how I learned it. I learned that what makes the Jewish people great, what is so wonderful about Judaism, is our constant need to question, that we're always looking for the deeper truth and to get deeper. So I think Nishma v'na'aseh would make at least as much sense as a Jewish way to respond, right? We will dig deep to understand and ask questions, and of course we're going to do it. But it doesn't say that, and I'm not satisfied with the answer that na'aseh comes first because we are supposed to just have blind faith. So what's another possibility? So another possibility that na'aseh comes before nishma is because nishma just isn't enough. And that na'aseh and nishma paired together is a special kind of hearing, a special kind of acceptance. The rabbis teach in a midrash that the whole world heard about what God had done for the Jewish people in Egypt. We can take that literally, that just it's big news if a large group of enslaved people, escape from Egypt, destroying their army, and a sea parting along the way, and plagues and all these kinds of things. So maybe literally news just went out around the world and people heard what had happened. Or maybe it's figurative. Maybe there's some kind of spiritual impact that, God made sure that everybody knew and everybody heard. But word at least spread as far as Yitro, and Yitro does something special, right? He hears, Vayishma, Yitro hears, but then what does he do? Vayikach Yitro Tzipporah Achar Shiluchecha, right? That Ushne Vanecha and his two sons, and it identifies who those sons are. It says, Vayavo Yitro Choten Moshe Uvanav Yishro El Moshe. And he got up and he came to Moshe. Right. So what does he do? He hears, but his hearing is in motion. right? That he immediately reacts and responds. Just hearing isn't enough. There's a kind of hearing that has a stance of naaseh built into it. You're hearing to know what to do. You're hearing to see something deeper. You're hearing to set in motion a spiritual journey. And the rabbis say that's what made Yitro special, right? He was a seeker. He was a Kohen of Midian, but he wasn't set in his ways. He was always questioning, always seeking. And when he hears about this amazing God who has freed the Israelites, his son-in-law included, he immediately moves. He hears with his motion, and he shows up there. And so too, that is what makes Naaseh v'nishma when the Jewish people say it in response to God commanding them at Mount Sinai. That the Naaseh is actually the important part of Nishma. Right, so in our verse at the beginning they say only Naaseh, later they add Naaseh v'nishma. It's telling us that this is a kind of hearing that, two people can look at the world, they can see the same miraculous event, and one of them can be changed forever, and the other one can be completely unchanged. Why is that so? Because some people are listening, and some people are listening in motion. Some people are open to hearing the next thing, and to having their minds changed, and to having their understanding deepen, and to having even their ways and the way they live their lives change by what they are seeing and what they are understanding. And that is the kind of listening, the kind of nishma that Judaism asks of us and teaches us to do. Not a static, this is what you need to hear, Jews, do this. That's nishma. But a naaseh v'nishma, here's a way of looking at the world around us. Here is a way to recognize that God is calling us all the time, and that is the kind of approach we should have, whether it's to Torah or to the world around us and all the miracles it contains, to our relationships and to our loved ones, and especially to the idea of feeling God and sensing God in our lives. I was recently reminded of a great quote often quoted by one of my rabbis, Eliezer Diamond, Zichrono Livracha. He said, I constantly have to remind myself, or I'm always reminding myself, that if I feel alienated from God, if I don't feel God's presence in my life, that the problem is not with God, the problem is with me. It's such a powerful idea. God is calling. Are we listening? And not just listening to hear, but listening in a way that is open to having our lives changed, having our minds changed, having our hearts changed, and having our souls changed. That's Naaseh v'nishma. And I hope that we can all find that openness and that active seeking and that willingness to change and to move forward, sometimes in the same direction, but sometimes in other directions, that is implied by Naaseh v'nishma. And may all our journeys take us higher up the mountain to a more meaningful and more purposeful lives. Shabbat Shalom.